Well, welcome everybody. I am super excited to be here. And as Melissa mentioned, I actually found my own journey through my own autoimmune condition. So I'm super passionate about lifestyle, about chronic disease, about reversing, and how we really integrate 5 pillars, which is really the premise of how I came up with my name, Whole Living, because it really isn't just one aspect of living that really supports a healthy lifestyle or healing or reversing of chronic disease or, thriving in the realm of having a chronic disease like fibromyalgia or lupus or any of the other ones. And so I really want to chat today about some things that I think are super fundamental and can make really big shifts, and they don't take a whole lot of effort. So I'm going to focus on nutrition today. And our objectives are, I'm going to share a little bit about the health of our world, what inflammation is, the relationship between food, inflammation, and the drivers that we're exposed to, anti-inflammatory foods and ways to manage and support the body, lifestyle factors to decrease inflammation and increase the quality of life, and how you can craft a life that you want and that you can thrive in. So it is estimated that 60% of the US population has at least one chronic condition. It's a pretty staggering amount, I think. And we are now at 40% have multiple chronic conditions. That's 6 in 10 adults who suffer today with a chronic condition. And I love this graph because it gives us an idea of the progression and really where we're headed. It only tells part of the story. So I want to encourage you, yes, this does look like we are definitely on the uptick of chronic diseases, but we have so much power in our lifestyle. And my hope is that we can all really equip ourselves to really change that trajectory so that we don't fall into these statistics that they are really thinking we are going to get up to. So you can see from 1995 to 2030, the progression of a pretty big change and shift. I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman. The central thing you have to do if you want to stay healthy, live a long life, feel good, and avoid chronic disease is to address the phenomena of inflammation. And we're going to chat a little bit about inflammation today and how that plays a role in our life. Chronic inflammation is the mother of all disease. Another wonderful researcher has created that quote. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is really important. We really want it to happen, but we want it to not be just a chronic part of our life. We don't want it to still affect us in a major way. So inflammation is our body's natural immune response to healing, right? You hit yourself, you get a scrape, everything rushes to that injury, to that infection, and it starts to protect us, and it's essential. It increases blood flow to the area, and you might see that redness or the swelling or, a cut. But that our body is really meant to heal. And so really that redness goes away and the cut starts to heal. And that's really what we want to have happen. But what happens if inflammation goes on longer, right? It's like that little burning fire that starts really small and then continues to go. We don't want that to happen. So what causes inflammation in our body? So many factors now of possible connections, right? And all of them are going to be different for all of us. But food, stress, environment, our lifestyle, blood sugar, lack of sleep, our gut health, all create just this storm of inflammation in our body. And that's why we really want to look to ways to support and decrease those inflammatory markers and touch points in our body. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So food, can it decrease or increase our inflammation? The simple answer is yes. Food can provide an amazing amount of protection for us. We have a lot of resources in the foods that we choose every single day based on our fork, right? I love that. Just thinking about what's on the end of your fork. I tell a lot of my clients what's on the end of your fork has the power to either rob your body or support and nourish and fuel your body. And so there's lots of choices that we have based on that, but it can really shield us from disease if we really are intentional about what we're doing. So some foods that create inflammation are processed meats, like those deli meats, salamis and hams and turkeys, right? Those are highly processed. Processed foods, think of everything that's in a package, everything that's boxed, right? Those are all processed. Those aren't naturally occurring. Sodas, sugars, sugary drinks, Gatorades, things like that, they're loaded with a lot of extra sugar. Vegetable seed oils, trans fats, hydrogenated oils, lots of different oils are abundant now, and they're highly processed, and they are not really acceptable in our body. They create inflammation over time. Refined flour, white bread, pastas, pizzas, all of those things that we think kind of those fast foods, those create inflammation in the body. Other known inflammatory foods are dairy, corn, soy, and wheat. There's others as well. It just kind of depends. Not everybody, right? Our bodies are all uniquely created, and we all have different triggers. I showed you that graph earlier of all the potential areas that can affect our body for inflammation. So some of these might apply to you, some of them might not, but these are just known inflammatory trigger foods. Look at this. Look at all these colors. I love this because it's just loaded with color and all good, healthy foods. We're going to talk more about what that looks like on your plate daily. So this is one of the graphs I share with every single one of my clients. It's one of the first things that I share of just looking at ways to bring in more of the good. It's not always about eliminating. We live, especially those with chronic illnesses, we really focus sometimes on all the things we can't have, right? I can't have gluten, I can't have dairy, I can't have this. But really, I like to focus on all the things we can have. We have so many really good options. And this is a really wonderful way to start creating abundance in those meals that feels really satisfying and gives you all of those nutrients that are going to provide you with energy, reducing your inflammation, reducing, pain. And this is half your plate full of really colorful, non-starchy fruits and vegetables. And then you want a place for really good healthy fats. Fats are important. We're going to chat more about that. And then you want to have another portion of those good fats, those good proteins, and then lots of just diversity and color. So some anti-inflammatory things you want to focus on are those high non-starchy vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, healthy oils, proteins, right? I just showed you that graph to kind of build those meals from. Those are snacks and all those meals. These all help your body balance and your tissue balance the pH for optimal mitochondrial function, right? That's really important for our whole body, for our energy level and how our immune system is functioning, how our body detoxifies, all really important to our mitochondria. So proteins, let's talk a little bit about proteins. Proteins are essential. A lot of us are deficient in proteins. We don't focus enough on those, and those are essential building blocks for our body. Some good choices are nuts and seeds, hemp hearts, chia seeds, raw, soaked, those are going to give you the most benefits. Organic grass-fed protein like beef, chicken, pork, wild game. One of my favorites is bison meat. If you haven't tried it, it is absolutely delicious. And these are the foods that are going to give you the most nutrients. They themselves are eating really good nutrient foods. They're going to then provide us with those as well. Eggs, free range, organic, right? Again, they're going to eat good quality foods that are going to in turn help our body get the maximum nutrients out of them as well. Good lentils are also good proteins. We also want to have a good amount of healthy fats. Fats are essential, right? I don't know about you, but I remember low fat craze. After I was married, my father-in-law had open heart surgery, and it was all about no fat or low fat, right? Well, fat is really important. We need it, but we want to have good fats, and there is really a difference. Our brain is nearly 60% fat, and DHA is important for that development and function. Fats are needed for absorption of specific phytonutrients and vitamins. They help build hormones, building blocks for our hormones, and help regulate our immune system. So they are essential, but we want to make sure that the choices that we're making are really good, healthy choices. So some good choices for fats are going to be flax seeds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, grass-fed butter, ghee, coconut oils, avocado oil, olive oil, almonds, avocados, right? Those are really big ones right now. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, good, healthy fats. And if you think back to that graph I showed you earlier about that balanced meal, bringing in a good fat at those meals, a small portion, is going to be really helpful in how your body processes all the foods that you're eating and good absorption. So some good choices here. And then you also want to have on that plate, remember, some good colorful carbohydrates. We think of carbohydrates as pastas and rice, and you need to have breads. Well, we can have a lot of good carbohydrates in the form of those complex carbohydrates in dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, carrots, beets, onions. Think of the rainbow. So if you go back to that picture that I showed you a moment ago about all those colors, that's what you really want to think about. What can you bring in? Instead of thinking about what you have to take out, think about what you can bring in that is going to be really filling, give you the most nutrients, give you the most energy. And those colors are going to help decrease your inflammation in your body as well. So think of that rainbow. It reduces inflammation, oxidative stress, and it gives us fiber. We need fiber for good elimination, good digestion. It's important. It gives us those micronutrients, those phytochemicals, and it stimulates the production of butyrate, which is really important to support the gut lining. So important. You can see how it works through all the stages in our body, right? Our digestion and our cells, our energy, and our gut lining. Really important, the choices, again, that we make on the end of our fork. Hippocrates says, illnesses do not come upon us out of the blue. They are developed from small daily sins against nature. When enough sins have accumulated, illnesses will suddenly appear. And I've seen this time and time again, right? Just all of a sudden something pops up and we think, well, where did that come from? It's been lurking there the whole time. And that's why we want to be proactive in our choices and how we support our body. So how do we do that, right? We talked about nutrition and we talked about how we can start to bring in some good foods, right? Anti-inflammatory, reducing sugars, reducing processed foods, and bringing in more color, increasing our diversity, good proteins and fats. Well, we also want to think about lifestyle support. There's other elements that play a role in inflammation in our body as well. And I call it the great balancing act. How do we keep it all in balance of the unhealthy versus the healthy, which can be tough. So some of the things that I love, in addition to the food and the nutrition that we are bringing in every day, is mindfulness, right? We want to tap into some of those other pillars, and mindfulness, stress reduction, yoga, meditation. So it lowers our inflammation. Our whole body is interconnected. And so these things really support our nervous system and driving down that calm into our body. So even light, you might feel like, one, I've never done this before, or my body's in too much pain, or I'm just not able. Even sitting there quietly for 5 minutes and stretching, or really just being mindful, can make a major shift. And then you can move towards a little bit more in-depth yoga, but really good for your nervous system. Movement, in addition, It supports your blood glucose levels, reduces inflammation, stress reduction, more mindfulness, and it decreases your risk of chronic diseases, of illnesses in general. Find a friend, get somebody to go out walking with you, even if it's down to your mailbox and back. You start really slow and you can build from there, but just get your body moving. I love how Melissa had the music going, right? I mean, you want to just get yourself up and move. We sit in a more sedentary lifestyle now, and we want to bring in a little bit of more mindfulness and movement. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. Some other things that help is it helps promote healthy cortisol levels, right? And can repair our body. In regards to sleep, sleep can both raise and lower our glucose levels. So lack of sleep is linked to issues like diabetes and heart disease and stroke and depression and anxiety. So sleep is one of the markers that we also want to really focus on. How can we bring in more good sleep? We live kind of in a busy life now where we are going all the time, and we stay up late or we get up really early, and that can be okay temporarily, every now and then, but the continual use, the continual time that we do that, it builds cumulatively in our body. And then what happens after that is we are left with the effects of it. We don't feel it at that moment, right? Our cortisol levels start to increase, and we start to feel maybe anxious, or, it drives up hunger. So many things are connected to sleep that we want to start to create a nice rhythmic pattern. Stress. How many feel this way? I do. I mean, stress is one of those things that is my own battleground of, what's going on, how to balance it, right? And so stress impacts our body and our inflammation as well. Chronic stress is when our brain perceives that stress and it signals the adrenals to make cortisol and those neurotransmitters. So optimal cortisol levels are at the highest in the morning. They help us to wake up and start the day, and the lowest in the evening to promote sleep. We just talked about sleep a moment ago. So the long-term stress leads to chronic activation of that HPA axis, which disrupts the cortisol rhythm as well as the DHA and the melatonin. So we really want to bring that nervous system down more into calm, good sleep, and reduce those stress points in our life. Thinking of ways to be able to do that, okay? So some things that you might think of are journaling, reading, guided visualization. There's lots of things we can do. Sometimes it's just sitting with yourself. Maybe it's drinking a cup of warm tea. It's getting wintertime and thinking about, how you can do that. It might be cooking. Maybe that's a way of stress relief for you. I love to cook. Create new meals. Just do something that brings joy is a way to activate that system in your body and help you to bring more calm in. So think of ways to be able to bring in self-care. Let's talk a little bit about gut health, right? We hear gut health is kind of a big buzzword right now, and I'm going to tie this all back into nutrition and our inflammation. And gut is one of those components that also plays a key role in, again, what's on the end of our fork, right? So our gut lining plays a vital role in our digestive process by absorbing water and those nutrients from the food that we're eating in our bloodstream. But what happens is that lining, we have a gut lining, and it's made from that mucosa, and it's semi-permeable. So it allows the water and the nutrients and the smaller molecules to pass through, but it has a more protective barrier as well. And it protects from bacteria and harmful, things that might come in, toxins. And that barrier is really essential for our immune system. It is supportive for preventing, infections, diseases, and triggering an immune response, which is really important when you're dealing with chronic conditions as well. We want to keep that immune system really nice in check, right? We want to have it really nice and calmed down. So it's important by what we're bringing in. So the integrity of the gut lining is crucial for maintaining proper nutrient absorption overall. So think again about what's on the end of your fork as part of that. So our gut lining is the gateway, right, to our immune system. And inflammation in the gut is the trigger, and that it can start to trigger other places in the body. So again, what's on the end of the fork affects our digestive system that then can break that wall down and then affect other systems in our body. So we're bombarded by lots of triggers today, right? We talked a little bit about stress, those inflammatory targets. So our gut, sugar, alcohol, pesticides, foods, chemicals, things we put on our skin, not only inside, medications, over-the-counter medications, antibiotics, those all build up in our body over time, and that long-term effects, they start to affect our gut health over time, and they can increase that gut permeability, also known as leaky gut. So these toxins from our diet, right? Maybe we have food sensitivities that we're unaware of. We're bringing foods in, sugary foods, inflammatory foods. They enter our body, and then because we have a gut lining that's not as strong as it was, it starts to create some joint pain and brain fog and fatigue, and sometimes even an autoimmune condition. So again, the end of your fork. I love this graph because it gives a really beautiful visual of a healthy gut on this side and then a leaky gut on the other. So you can see the mucosal barrier that is broken down, and then the gut lining that has now been penetrated. And so those tight junctions are no longer there. And we start to feel those effects. So again, sleep and stress and toxins and food, inflammatory foods are creating that breakdown and changing our microbiome, changing our immune system and how our body is really regulated. So some other things can also trigger this, environmental factors, right? We talked a little bit about pesticides, toxins. Some other ones that we don't really think of are trauma, things we've experienced in our life or relationships. Those can also impact our health and impact our body and our immune system. So some things to think about that can drive those triggers and the inflammation in the body. So how do we bring it all together, right? It's the great balancing act. I showed you that earlier, and how to craft that life that you really, really want. So I want to bring it together with some simple tools for you, is to think about really what's on the end of your fork. Think about ways to bring in, not decreasing or eliminating all the foods, which is a lot of times, again, what we really think of, but it's really focusing on all the good stuff that you can bring in. What can you bring in? Think of the rainbow. One of the things I like to challenge clients to do is to go to the store and bring in one new food from the vegetable department, right? One new color. What one new color can you bring in that you didn't have before? So think of adding instead of what you're taking away. So some quick principles is to think of a good protein, a good fat, and lots of color and diversity at your meals that will help to give you the maximum energy, support your mitochondrial health, right? Give your cells all that it needs, and also help your gut to stay healthy and strong at the same time. And then look for ways that you can, through the pillars of life, stress, right? Sleep, lifestyle factors in movement. How can you bring those in to support your body overall and drive down any inflammation that you might have. The more we drive down inflammation, the less pain we'll have, the less brain fog, the less fatigue. So we can really add some simple tools in our life that can be really supportive. There's a book that I really love. It's called Atomic Habits. And James Clear really brings simple principles in when we're looking to bring in some new habits into our life. And we can add something really small that we can grow and sustain. So you might challenge yourself for a new goal that you can have. Maybe it's to bring in something new. And when you go to the store, as I mentioned, you'll pick one new thing. So thinking of new habits that you can bring in those areas that maybe will bring more of that great balance to you. I like crafting your life in a way that fits your lifestyle. We have various lifestyles and two people are going to look the same. So craft the life that you want so you can have optimal health and feel great and reduce your risk of chronic diseases. And if you have something, maybe reverse it, which is really possible through epigenetics and through the choices that we make. So to wrap up, bring in those principles and hoping that that you found some nutritional and some anti-inflammatory support today.